So I bet you've been looking forward to the lockdown ending. Maybe you found yourself wishing that things would go back to normal. And maybe you've noticed that you have a fear that there is no normal, or there won't be a new normal. So in this stream, Amaladana will be joining us in a bit, and he's going to be sharing a bit of his experience of lockdown, and also going to be exploring what the Buddha said about our expectations of normality. Yeah, stay tuned. I'm really looking forward to this stream. Should be an interesting and enjoyable one. So really warm welcome to you if you're tuning in, or forever you're tuning in. My name is Virian Arga, so I'm one of the teachers at the Brixton Buddhist Community, and I'm going to be hosting this live stream. Do drop us a message in the chat room, in the chat box, if you're tuning in live, and we'll give you a shout out. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Nice, good to say hi to you. And if you're catching up with us a bit later on, you're really enjoying the content on the Brixton Buddhist Community's YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the alert bell so you can find out about all the new events and videos and live streams we've got coming up in future. So on these Wednesday nights, we usually start by saluting the shrine. I've got a beautiful shrine behind me. And so this is just us turning our attention towards what the ideals of Buddhism, which would be growth and development as personified by the Buddha. So you're very welcome to just watch that, or you can join in with me, and then we'll go from there. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dhammaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Namah. Om. Hum. Good. So now we've turned our attention towards the ideals. We've arrived in a slightly more ritualized space, more of a Buddhist space, if you like, one that's conducive to growth. We can just turn inwards briefly with a very short breathing space exercise, just to help ground us and bring our energies into the room. So you can just get yourself comfortable. You don't have to need any special arrangements. You can just sit in a chair or on your sofa or wherever. So just get yourself settled, and we're just, if you like to, if you're ready, you can just sort of close your eyes. And what we're going to do first of all is just experience the body. So we've probably been doing quite a few different activities today, and we may not have taken much time to turn our awareness towards the body. So you might notice the contact of your body with whatever you're sitting on, the chair or cushions. You can sort of sketch out your posture with your awareness, so noticing how your limbs are positioned. Noting perhaps how your shoulders are placed, whether they feel tight and tense and up high, or whether they're loose and down low. Bringing awareness to your spine and how upright it is. Feeling the weight of the head at the top of the neck. Perhaps being aware of the balance of the head at the top of the spine. Also bringing awareness to your face as well. Checking that the face and the muscles in the face that we use to make expressions and communicate are just at rest. And allow them to be soft and calm. Then we can allow our awareness to settle more and more on the breath. allowing that awareness to focus a bit more tightly, particularly on the sensations of the breath, on the experience of the air entering your body, your chest expanding to accommodate the air. And then the air leaving again, and just that cycle repeating, just over and over. And all you need to do is watch. You don't need to manage or control that experience at all. You can just observe with your awareness the sensations associated with that process of breathing, which gives you life. Then after narrowing that awareness, you can allow that awareness to broaden right out again. So leaving the breath for the moment, leaving the body, although staying anchored in the breath and body, but turning your awareness to your environment, turning awareness outwards, perhaps becoming aware of your position or location in the room that you're in. You can be aware of sounds that you can hear, maybe sounds that are local to you, but also more distant ones, more distant noises, maybe trains going by or cars or people out in the street, birds chirping, anything that you can notice. And perhaps just imaginatively and creatively bringing other people to mind, bringing an awareness of others, probably not too far away from you, just others going about their Wednesday evening. Just particularly getting a sense of ourselves as part of this community of people. This network of people, network of humans who are more or less reliant on one another in one way or another, who collectively create our society. And then when you're ready, you can just let that short meditation and reflection just go. Come back to your body. And when you're ready, you can just open your eyes. Very good. So what I'll do now is I'll welcome Amaladana into the shop. Welcome, Amaladana. Very warm welcome to you from our studio. I believe you're calling in from Forest Hill, aren't you? Is that right?
That's right. You can tell by the bird song, no doubt.
Yeah,
Forest Hill crickets.
We get a few here as well, actually. So before you launch into your talk, let me just say a little bit about you, and then I'll do a few shout-outs, and then you can launch into your talk. But Amaladana is a regular teacher here at the Brixton Buddhist Community, so he's been involved for longer than I have. He's been around and supporting the situation for quite a while, and was a regular teacher at our Wednesday night class when we were back meeting physically. And he also serves a very important role. He's in the Brixton community as one of the trustees and also our treasurer. So he very much looks after the financial management. So I find his name means he who's giving is pure, or he who's giving is stainless. And I really do experience that with Amaladana. He's a very generous man, both in terms of well, deeds and words and money as well. So you know, I really do appreciate his values. Or his values, the values he brings to the situation. I've really appreciated his support throughout the time I've been involved, and also my time as chair. So really, really delightful to have Amaladana joining us. Yeah. So I will hand over to you in a moment, Amaladana. I'm just going to do a few shout outs to people that have tuned in. So we've got Jill tuning in from Gypsy Hill. I don't know if that's close to Forest Hill, but not too far, I imagine. Yeah. We've got Lynn from Wiltshire. That's definitely not close to Forest Hill. Karen Avadra joining from Birmingham. He says downtown Brixton, which I really like. Alina from Herne Hill, who's looking forward to your talk, Amaladana, as am I. And Alex from Clapham Junction as well. We've got more on the stream, but they haven't said hi yet. So do say hi in the chat room if you want to shout out, and I'll mention you later on. So I might just hand over to you, Amaladana, to take it away.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you for the kind introduction. Hello to Alex, Jill, Karavadra, Lynn, and Elena, and anyone else who's there. Yes, so tonight we're going to talk about what the Buddha might have said about the new normal. And as you might expect, it refers to the current sort of pandemic situation. And I'm going to start just with a sort of recollection of my experience, so it's a bit of a personal view to start off with. And I suppose looking back, it's just over 2 months ago, I suppose now, isn't it, when the current lockdown started. I can't honestly say I remember exactly how I felt at the time. I think I thought that we were just about to go into some sort of temporary period where our lives, you know, as we knew them, were going to change a bit. And that after that, we'd return back to situation as usual, that we just had to sort of abide by a few simple guidelines. And I suppose the guidelines have been quite simple, but they made quite a difference to my sort of lived experience in this period. I think the first realization of the scale of what was happening was sort of seeing the supermarket shelves emptied. I think that's probably been said before, but that was the first thing where it said, well, hold on, something's happening here. And you know, it was my first sort of indication of how people outside of my direct family were feeling, and it was a bit shocking. My emotions sort of ranged from a bit of a bewilderment. You know, I just couldn't understand whether I was completely misreading the situation, and that the sort of supplies of pasta and tin goods and loo rolls, you know, were really under threat. And to anger, really. I suppose that was caused by fear, that I couldn't really assume that all of my food and household needs could be met by just, you know, spending 5 minutes walking down the road to Sainsbury's. And then there was this concept of the non-essential shop. So the closure of pretty much everything outside of health, transport, and food services. And that made a pretty big difference too. I think I must say that for me, that was largely welcome. I found that shopping as infrequently as possible and cutting off sort of excursions for, you know, necessary items or entertainment diversions created a retreat-like situation at home. That sort of I could almost feel like the pull of the outdoors shrinking away, and I found myself focusing more on my immediate surroundings and becoming more absorbed in the things I was doing and being more comfortable with doing just nothing. My overall experience through the lockdown has been really of a pretty much a retreat-like situation, where I've been very grateful to live in a house with a lovely garden and the company of my wife and one of my daughters. And I've really liked the experience of London with hardly any cars on the roads or planes in the sky, and without sort of an orange haze over the centre of London. But of course, you know, the real impact of this period has been to so many people who've become ill or have died, and to those people who've loved them and cared for them, and all of those people who've been obliged to expose themselves to danger to earn a living, or those who've worried about loved ones who are vulnerable. Again, I'm fortunate that neither myself or any of my close family have been ill, and I feel for those where that's not the case. But I found it difficult really to contemplate this too deeply. I think it's quite painful, isn't it? It must be, it's almost unimaginable. And I think that my, my initial obsession with, the numbers and statistics and the flattening of curves and sort of comparisons with other countries, and getting angry with people, people who I felt weren't managing things properly. And I think all of that really was a bit of a distraction from me from actually feeling about how it was really impacting people. And I sort of felt that this wasn't really doing myself or probably anyone else much good. And and I stopped pretty much watching a lot of the news, other than to just keep abreast of what was going on, as opposed to finding someone to blame, really, and to just distracting myself from more difficult feelings. And this seems to have left a bit more space, and I think I paid a little bit more attention to other people. And I found myself initiating contact with people I haven't seen for a while, with friends and family. And I'm normally quite passive in this regard. I normally sort of wait for people to contact me, and I'm quite happy to be friendly and responsive when that happens. But I don't often initiate things, and I found myself doing that more. And I felt closer to some people, like my neighbours, my immediate neighbours, but on both sides of where I live. They're both, rather, elderly, and very vulnerable, because they've got quite serious health conditions, and it's quite, I've quite enjoyed, doing more for them. And I've got beyond this masks thing. It's taken me a while to get used to people wearing masks and to wear them myself. When in sort of close encounters in supermarkets and things. And my views of people wearing masks has changed from sort of thinking that maybe they're a little bit too anxious, to appreciating them as making, an effort to take care of themselves and their loved ones and complete strangers. And I'm a little bit less likely to forget distancing from people. I was constantly getting jabbed in the ribs by my wife for the street up to them, and it's gradually got used to this idea of distancing and walking out into the road from the pavement and thanking people who do that for me, and just sort of acknowledging people a bit more, really. So I've noticed these small changes in myself, but it's a bit embarrassing, really, to put these on the table, or these sort of paltry achievements, when you consider the hugely impressive and heartwarming things that have been done by so many other people. And I feel sort of warmth and gratitude towards them. And I feel closer and more appreciative towards strangers as well. I feel there's there is a sort of community collaborative sort of feel about things now, largely. And I really like the clapping for the NHS and carers. I think, there is a sort of cynical view of that, but I thought it was great. And I found it very connecting. I felt connected with the neighbourhood and beyond. And it was, a reminder of our shared humanity and reliance on one another, and a rather simple way of actually expressing a need to connect with other people, and a need to sort of communicate something. And I've also been grateful to the Brixton team, actually, for their huge effort and foresight and skill in converting our classes and courses to this online format. It's something which I think takes a huge amount of effort, and it would be hard to imagine what this would be like, what the sense of the Brixton angle would be like without it. And what's becoming apparent in my experience lately is a sort of a nagging feeling that whilst on the surface I think I'm managing in our lockdown, as I say, my conditions are quite fortunate, and things like Brixton is still there for me and for you. I sort of want to see the end of this lockdown. I felt that I'm actually benefiting in a lot of ways, and I've got this, if you like, this, as I say, retreat-like sort of atmosphere. But I'm sort of getting a bit tired of it. And when I sat down to think about doing this talk, it was a beautiful sunny day, rather like many we've had recently, and I heard this seagull cry, and it's not very common. Often you hear seagulls in London in the summer, I don't think. normally heralds bad weather. But I heard the seagull cry, and it immediately brought to mind the smell and the sound of the sea, and the desire to sort of dive into it and to swim about in it, and get that sense of invigoration and sort of cleansing that you get in seawater. And I wanted to hear the sounds of the waves of the shore and more seagulls. Now, I wasn't quite sure what sort of phase we were in our exit to lockdown, and whether that would be a thing to do. But I felt that it wasn't, an option to act on the ocean, plan a visit to the coast. And this, of course, made the whole idea even more attractive. And I sort of felt this tinge of loss. And I've come up against this feeling of being constrained in many ways. I wanted to sort of socialize, to go and see films, or to visit a restaurant, or just go and buy something non-essential. And I've sort of missed out on our physical classes. I'm really grateful for this online alternative, as I said a minute ago, but I do miss face-to-face contact. I think there is a difference. So lockdown, as I said at the beginning, it has a sort of temporary connotation to it. It's something that will happen to us for a period of time, and then we'll be released from it. And when I've had my, if you like, my seagull desires, and during lockdown, I sort of put them to the back of my mind, and the idea of indulging them, I've been able to put aside, thinking that this is a temporary period, and I just need to last it through. But I suppose that gradually things have been accumulating back there, and whilst I'm prepared to hold off on things for a while, I sort of want to know when I can return to normality. Of course, the nature of what we're going through now means that our world might not be exactly the same as it was before lockdown. So as well as accumulating this list of things that I want to indulge myself in, is the question as to how I'll be able to do it, how I'll be able to realize these things in the future. And for me, this is the meaning of the word, the new normal. What will the world look like, and how will I be able to do and go about my activities to get the thing, to avoid the things I don't need. And the expression, the new normal, seems to be the desire to stabilize and fix our environment so that it's predictable, and so that we can plan and organize to get our needs met. Of course, we all have different needs and are experiencing the current situation in many different ways. But I think the frequency in which this expression is being heard, I think, I'm sure everyone's heard it quite regularly, points to a sort of common human desire, if you like, to understand what we're going to be moving into, so that, what sort of world that's going to be, so that we can plan and manage and organize what our experiences are going to be. So I think I'm going to move on now to try and relate this human desire to this need to establish a new normal to the Buddha's teaching. And I'm going to point out one or two fundamental teachings of the Buddha that suggest that we should perhaps modify our conception of the new normal, and rather succinctly put these fundamentals within the context of the overall Buddhist path. So it's going to be a bit of a whirlwind tour. Hold on to your seats. So firstly, the Buddha taught us that we live in a conditioned world. So that means that every phenomenon we're aware of comes into being due to specific conditions, and it lasts while those conditions persist, and then it passes away once they've gone. And this teaching is well illustrated in the well-known sort of wheel of life. The picture, the visual picture of the wheel of life, and many of you, I'm sure, have come across that. But this image, if you like, depicts 12 successive stages in our experiences of life, from birth through to death, and each stage is dependent on the one that preceded it. And so it brings this idea of conditionality, if you like, this realization that everything that we become aware of is dependent on conditions to our human experience. And an important consequences of the arising and ceasing of phenomena according to conditions is the fact that nothing's permanent. Nothing spontaneously presents itself and then removes itself. And this isn't surprising. We know that how the physical world changes with day and night, through the seasons, how living things are born and grow, then die, and how everything we have eventually wears out and we need to replace it. And science tells us that the world we perceive is made of, the minutest of particles, which are in constant flux, and they're rather mysterious. And we also know that, perhaps we don't give it the attention it deserves, that our own minds are subject to dramatic changes as well. We can instantly move from one mood to another without perhaps being aware of it, and, without being aware of the causes of the change. But these moods, they represent the quality of our lives. So we do have an understanding of impermanence. We do recognize it as being there, but our understanding probably just isn't deep enough. It's not profound enough. And our search for a new normal is like a search to re-establish the boundaries of something we can find as acceptable, something we can make plans within, and in which our expectations are met as often and as fully as possible, in order to make us happy. And I think we have a tolerance to change, for change. We understand rationally that it happens, but when that tolerance is exceeded, we sort of struggle and suffer. And the fact of our suffering is another fundamental truth of of the Buddha, that the Buddha articulated, and it's the first of the Four Noble Truths, one of the Buddha's earliest teachings. And in summary, he says that our suffering can be described in three ways. He says that we've got this dukkha of painful experience, which is very, very appropriate now, where we're confronted with things we don't want. The pain of birth, aging, illness, and death are perhaps the biggest things. And of course, illness and death are things which are very much in our minds at the moment. And then the second sort of category of suffering is the suffering of where we have happy, pleasant experiences, but they don't last. When we miss them, we want to recreate them. We feel a yearning for staying there all the time, but we know that's not possible. And the last experience is the one which really I pulled out at the beginning. It's this idea of our conditioned experience. That everything is impermanent. All the phenomena that we're familiar with, we can't hold them in place and consider them permanent. They morph and change and die and remove themselves. So the impermanence, the last of these three categories, is the root of a lot of our suffering. But sort of interestingly, it's also the key to our liberation from suffering. And so, earlier I mentioned this, this wheel of life with the 12 stages of our lives that we typically follow. And Buddhism sees this process being handed on from one life to the next, where we may have experience of happiness, in our lives, but underlying them all in all of our different lives, there's this presence, this constant presence of the suffering in the categories that I just mentioned. So the Buddha's path to take us off this wheel, and this wheel of samsara, where suffering exists, into a progressively higher mental state until we're liberated entirely from suffering, and attain. The Buddha's path is to take us from this wheel and from this experience of suffering, and to sort of liberate us and to achieve this state called enlightenment. And the fact that things are impermanent, it means that we have this possibility to escape our predicament of the wheel of life. And the sole objective of the Buddha's Dharma is to teach us about the nature of reality and how we can act in accordance with it, to liberate ourselves from suffering. And his teaching is expressed in a number of ways, but perhaps the most concise is the threefold way, the path of ethics, meditation, and wisdom. And in ethics, we're choosing skillful ways to act that will lead us to the well-being of ourselves and others. And karma is a key concept in this domain. We're taught that our actions of body, speech, and mind will determine the nature of our future experience, and that to act with the motivation of love, generosity, and wisdom will lead to our benefit and the benefit of others. And then, in meditation, we are training our minds so that we can use it as a source of skillful action, and to give it the capacity and the versatility to absorb the truth when we experience it. And in wisdom, we're absorbing more and more of our insights of reality that come to us through our sustained practice of ethics and meditation, so that more and more frequently can we act from a basis of wisdom, rather than just a sort of knee-jerk reaction to our experience. And these three stages are intimately connected. They sort of mutually support each other. So the path may start with ethics, but it's present throughout the whole path. And I like the metaphor of the lotus flower to describe their interrelation, where the outer leaves of the flower represent ethics, and the middle ones meditation, and the inner ones wisdom. So all the leaves can be opening at the same time, but the extent to which the leaves of wisdom can open is determined by the depths of our meditation, and the extent to which our meditation can deepen is limited by our practice of ethics. So the path then is a continual process of development, one in which our continued practice leads us successively to higher and higher mental states. And these reflect our coming closer and closer to the reality of existence and acting in accordance with it. And this allows us to better withstand the sort of vicissitudes of life. So I looked up, I often on talks, I sort of look up, I think people quite often do this, they pick up the dictionary and they look up definitions of things, so they've got any idea, it brings them any ideas. And I looked up the definition of lockdown, which I didn't think was going to be very fruitful, but I thought that's rather funny actually. It said the confining of prisoners to their cells, typically in order to regain control during a riot. And so it seemed a bit of a rough description for our current situation. But I thought I'd sort of have a little run at looking at it as a metaphor. So perhaps, the riot is the eruption of the COVID-19 virus. And we can have views about, its origin. Perhaps our treatment of animals has caused a problem, which we've ignored. And that's gone on to cause a localized issues, which again, we've ignored. Until it's too late to prevent this arrival in the UK. And, and we are the prisoners, we're sort of forced to abide by restrictions on our normal freedoms. For some of us, this is a rough and unpleasant experience, while others are having an easier time of it. So what about, the easing of lockdown? To what extent will we be sort of freed from our cells? Will we get all of our privileges back? And even if we're completely released from our cells, aren't we still in prison? And I'd say that, our desire to get hold of this new normal, or to sort of fix a world in which we can exist with these conditioned things, to give us a stable and lasting happiness, but where all of our attempts are inevitably confounded, it's a kind of imprisonment, and that a path of continual growth that eventually leads us to the transcending of our experience completely is a far more attractive concept of liberation. So I wanted to sort of end with a simile given by the Buddha, and it's that of the rain falling on a hilltop as a sequence of progressions that sort of allude to our progress in the spiritual life, our sort of filling up with the Dharma and our progress towards enlightenment. So if you'll forgive me for a moment, rather than typing this out, I thought I'd just read it from the book. Here goes. It's a little bit difficult to read. I tried reading it as a practice and I made a complete mess of it. So, bear with me. So, just as when, brethren, on some hilltop, when rain is falling in thick drops, that water, coursing according to slope, fills the hilltop's clefts and chasms and gullies. These being filled up, fill the tarns. These being filled up, fill the lakes. These being filled up, fill the little rivers. These being filled up, fill the great rivers. And the great rivers being filled up, fill the sea, the ocean. Even so, brethren, there is a causal association of activities with ignorance of consciousness with activities. of name and shape with consciousness, of the sixfold sense sphere with the name and shape, of contact with the sixfold sense sphere, of feeling with contact, of craving with feeling, of grasping with craving, of becoming with grasping, of birth with becoming, of sorrow with birth, of faith with sorrow, of joy with faith, of rapture with joy, of serenity with rapture, of happiness with serenity, of concentration with happiness, of knowledge and vision of things as they really are with concentration, of repulsion with the knowledge and vision of things as they really are, of passionlessness with repulsion, of liberation with passionlessness, of knowledge and about extinction with liberation. So I didn't quite manage it, but that's the whole simile, and it's probably a little bit difficult to take in if you've not actually come across those all those terms before. But basically, it just uses this this metaphor of this natural metaphor of rain falling and how it reaches the ocean, fills up the ocean, with how we in our practice absorb more and more of the Dharma, become more and more familiar with reality, and eventually have the capacity, like the ocean, to hold all of this in our experience and to live a happier and fulfilled life as an enlightened being. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So I don't quite know how to sign off, but I'm signing off.
No, I'm here. Sorry, I'm here. Yeah, thank you very much. That's great. I really enjoyed that. I thought you brought out your individual experience of lockdown as well as the more dharmic significance of it. It sparked off quite a few questions in me, which we'll see if I get a chance to answer. But I'm going to put it down to everyone else tuning in to put some questions in or comments. would be very keen to hear about your experience of lockdown, or also any reflections or questions you'd like to put to Amaladana to see how he responds. Yeah, do type your questions in the chat room. So I'll put them to Amaladana in a moment. Amaladana, I'm just going to take you off the screen for a minute. I'll bring you back in a second. Yeah. So while you're typing in your questions and comments, I just want to do our regular appeal for donations and gifts. Just to say that every month we need to raise £2,000 to keep all these activities going. And thanks to the generosity of people who particularly give monthly already, we're already doing very well this month. So we've got off to a good start with about £800 of donations. So yeah, just if you would like to give to these activities and give to these streams and so on, and to keep them all going, there's a link in the description. So we'd really, really value particularly monthly gifts, but anything that you could give to help us sustain the channel and to put on more and more of these activities would be very, very much appreciated. And I should just say that at the end of every month, I'm planning to do a thank you video listing everyone who's given that month. So that has just gone up on our channel for May. So if you'd like to see that video, you can just find it and yeah, click on it and watch that video. Okay, so let's bring Amaladana back in. Yeah, hello Amaladana, back in.
Hello.
So just got a few more, no questions so far, but a few shout outs to people. So I'll just do those. I'll just say who's tuning in. So we've got Louise from West Dulwich, Ratnatuda, who's from Crystal Palace, Jo S. She says, lovely to see Amaladana tonight and greetings to all the Sangha. We've got Pam tuning in from Upper Norwood, a very late Daisy from Camberwell, and also Savannah Tara as well. So yeah, lots of people tuning in, so that's very, very good. So if you, so Alina says, there is a question. Alina says, could you tell us again the name of this teaching of the hill? I've never come across. P.S. Great talk.
The name of it, yeah, it's from, oh goodness, the sutta it comes from is that Upanishad, I think. Oh, oh, God. Oh, am I still there?
We'll give you a moment to think.
Sorry, no, sorry. I thought I'd lost connection. And then I think it's the Upanisa from memory, Upanisa. I know it's in the Sutta Nipata. Other than that, I can't remember the full name, but I will forward it to you. I'll make a note to forward it to you.
You can also put it on the comments box as well of the video as well. Yep. Okay. So no more questions so far. But Lynn BC says, really enjoyed your talk, Amaladana. Thank you. I very much enjoyed the teaching of the rain on the hill as well. So thanks for that, Lynn. Yeah. Oh, here you go. Another one. They're coming in thick and fast now. This is what I like. Bit of energy in the chat room. I love it when we get going. Alex B says, thanks for the talk, Amaladana. Is there any particular Buddhist approach that you think will help you personally in moving towards a new normal lifestyle?
For me personally, I don't know precisely, but I think the whole concept of friendship, actually, and actually reaching out to people, and going beyond the sort of normal confines of myself. So I mentioned earlier, didn't I, that I tended to be quite passive in communication. What's become apparent to me is that passiveness, if you like, and that when I do reach out, it's something I've experienced before, but I think this space that seems to have opened up has made it more apparent to me that I just need to live with more metta in mind, and to reach out to people and expand my range of contacts. That's something which I want to experience in the new normal. That's something I want to do more of, and I think that that's something which is, in terms of the balance of my practice, if you like. I think it's a week. Maybe this is a bit of a not the right way of looking at it, but I just think it's an area I can make progress in, put it that way.
Great. Okay, good. We just got a comment from Louise, not so much a question, but she says, while I have found the lockdown hard and I am tiring a little, I am grateful for the turn of events personally, as it has led me to the Dharma. Don't know if you've got any comments on that or reflections.
It'd be interesting to know from Louise, how that's happened. But I wonder whether it's something about having, as I say, I think for a lot of people, things which we normally do, and I've just realised to what extent I use shopping, as a distraction. Every day I go, because I am really close to the shops. And every day I find a need that I need to go and buy something. And I think they are distractions. And I think when we haven't got those normal distractions that we go through, whether it's shopping or entertaining ourselves or whatever we do, when they're not there, not available to us, or they're not quite as nice as they are in the lockdown period as they used to be, then it sort of forces us to think of something else. What do we want to do? Surely we don't want to listen to the news again. And I think it opens up a space, and it makes us more reflective. I don't know, Louise, how you got into contact with the Dharma. Maybe you looked up meditation online or something, or I don't know. But good on you for looking out and being creative and exploratory in your approach. And I'm really glad that you found something which is infinitely interesting and absorbing.
Great, yeah, good reflection. So one more from Karanavajra. He says, a good question is, how are we going to emerge different after the lockdown?
That's a question for everyone, isn't it? So I suppose I could look at that in two ways. On the one hand, you could look at it from the the perspective that I've sort of given the talk, and that is that we'll say, how are we going to emerge, into the new lockdown as a sort of a little bit about how do I re-establish the same things as I had before once the lockdown's finished. But perhaps Karuna Vajra means, how are we going to change ourselves regardless to some extent of the new conditions? What is it that we want to take through? How do we want to interact with our world once this lockdown's finished? Of course we can do things now, can't we? We can change ourselves right away. We can log in online and try to discuss the Dharma with people. We can meditate. We can do all sorts of things right now. But we are under some constraint. But so I think going out and being in touch with people, being in touch with people and interacting with people, I think is a big thing for me, as I say, and I think that's everyone will be different. I mean, it may well be that some people are already doing an awful lot with other people, and that maybe they need to have some more downtime and be able to have time to reflect on things. So yeah, I think it's an individual question, basically. Or question for individuals.
But I'm just going to derail it slightly. But one of my reflections is that, I think the experience of the whole watching the protests in America at the moment, particularly around the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's interesting you mentioned rioting, isn't it? Because actually there seems to be this, because there's been quite a lot of discrimination and racism in America, but it seems like at a particular moment there has been a response to that in a stronger way perhaps than in the past. And I wonder if that has slightly come out of a sense of people realizing that they do want a slightly new normal, or a slightly improved normal. Do you sort of see what I mean? Like a bit more actively engaged with, well, trying not to spread hatred and ill will and racism, and anyway, that's just a reflection from me. I don't know if you've got, I could form it into a question if you wanted, but that's what comes to my mind.
Well, yeah, it's just defies. How do you respond to something like? I mean, it's really, really painful to watch, isn't it? And it's something which we've all seen before. My daughter's actually at the demonstration today. I don't know, I'm a little bit anxious about what's going on there, actually, but yeah, I'm really, it's really nice to see, actually, to see in her revulsion and just her just not understanding what why this has happened, and why people do behave like this, and that's a lovely sort of sign of seeing humanity in her. It's really nice to see that. But it's maybe wishful thinking to think it's going to change because when lockdown ends, because it's been going on for forever, hasn't it? It's not. It's only the advent of mobile phone that's made it more sort of in our faces. We can't ignore it. But yet people seem to be, don't they? I mean, people who seem to be wanting to maintain the status quo, and that's it's inexplicable to me, and maybe a lot of people.
I mean, it does just make me think that we don't have to accept the normal, whatever the status quo is or the normal. We don't have to accept it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what we try to do as Buddhists in a way, whether through direct action or whether through helping people work with their more negative mental states. So actually there's less ill will and hatred and greed in the world. Sorry, maybe I'm derailing your little talk here, but I'd rather feel it's quite a pressing matter in a way, and worthy of our consideration.
It became okay. I sort of perhaps when I chose the title of the talk, if it had been that that had been prevalent at the time, it would have been something different.
Yeah, good. Well,
I don't really have anything more to say on that.
Yeah, that's fine. No, great. Okay, so we're a little bit short on time, but I just want to give you a little bit more feedback, partly from Louise actually, who asked the question of how did she discover the Dharma. She said, I had kept hoping to attend in person in Brixton, but just never got there. A virtual opportunity got me involved, and now I can't wait to meet you all in person.
Oh, lovely.
So that's lovely, isn't it? Yeah, I look forward to meeting you too, Louise. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, very good. And yeah, just lots of good comments in the chat room. But as we're a bit short on time, maybe we should close off this bit of the stream tonight. What I will say is, if you would like to discuss any of these matters further or continue some of the themes we've talked about tonight, there will be a Zoom discussion after this call, and that's going to be hosted by Amra Pushpa as normal. But Amaladana will also be on that call as well, so you'll be able to put more of your questions and comments to him. So, so normally we'd have a little block for meditation, but I've so much enjoyed my conversation with Amaladana that we've run a little bit short on time. But what I am going to do is just try to bring us in a very short, again, body awareness, or perhaps an awareness of others. So just we can just have a couple of minutes to do that if you'd like. So I'm just going to take Amaladana off the screen for the moment. I'll bring him back to say goodbye. And so what I just want you to do, we're just going to do a very, very short form of the Metta Bhavana, just in 2 stages, just ourselves and others. And what I want you to do is just firstly come into contact with your body, again, the body sensations. And with these body sensations, just see if you can get a sense of how you are emotionally at the moment. Just see how that talk has, whether it's stirred you up, whether you're excited, whether there's energy there. Just sort of see how you are right now. And we can just be really open, receptive, interested, curious as to what our experience is. Maybe we can also just bring in a reflection about how we've been with the lockdown ourselves. So how have we responded to that? And it's absolutely okay to say that you've been struggling. That's, I imagine at some level we've all been struggling, maybe some more than others, but we've all probably found it trying, tiring, downright hard or painful. It's okay just to acknowledge that, to be aware of that, but just trying to bring a sense of kindness towards yourself about that, a kind of sense of understanding, maybe a sense of appreciation that you've done your best. You've done your best given the situation. So just tuning in to what effect that well-wishing, that metta has for your experience. So does that awareness of your emotions, or awareness of your feelings, or sensations in the body change as you wish yourself well? So acknowledge that you've done your best in the lockdown situation. Okay, and then let's bring to mind others as well. Let's bring to mind other people in the same situation, other people around the world that have also been in lockdown, a whole different variety of cultures, people, situations, circumstances, some struggling more than others, some coping better than others. But particularly maybe dwelling on the reflection that it's affected all of our lives in some way, and that probably everybody has some wish for something to change, or to open up, or to have more freedom, And just seeing if you can wish people well. And even those people that maybe you have problems with or you disagree with, you probably, if we want a new normal to arise, we also want them to grow, develop, perhaps change their perspective. So just seeing if we can collectively wish people well. Whether that's just quite simple and straightforward, or whether that's more in a constructive, developing way, but just seeing if we can wish everybody that's in this situation, that we're in this situation with, see if we can wish them well. Just imaginatively. You don't have to have a strong sense of everybody, just a sense of humanity, all in this situation together. And that by and large, people act out of a sense of trying to be happy, whether that's misguided or not. We fundamentally all act out of the same basic impulse, root impulse, that we don't want to suffer, that we want to be happy. Just seeing if we can wish that happiness upon people. So just starting to let that reflection go now. You can always pick that thread up again later on, but just allowing that to dissipate, allowing that to go, and just come back to the sense of your body, sensations in your body, sitting here, listening to me, just having listened to Amaladana, connected with us and the rest of the Brixton community. When you're ready, you can just bring this meditation to a close. Okay, so welcome back, Amaladana.
Oh, hi. Yeah. I put the reference to that similarly in the chat in our connection. Maybe you could drop it on the video for Elena.
We will do. We'll do. That's great. Thanks very much. Okay, great. So we'll say goodbye in a moment, but I just want to let you know about a few other things we've got coming up on our Brixton program, and don't forget to subscribe to that to get all the information. But particularly, I want to draw your attention to our Saturday morning discussion, which happens on Zoom, which is called Dharma Drop-In, and that's Amaladana will be there. And that's going to be led by Matt. And this class is just an opportunity for people to talk about the Dharma of a Saturday morning. I sort of imagine that people sit around with croissants and coffee and just talk the Dharma, but I don't know if it's really like that. But yeah, it's like that. That's great. There you go. And the theme this time is going to be on craving. So very, very strong, powerful emotion. So part of probably what we're wanting after the lockdown is imbued with a sense of wanting or craving or grasping. So Matt will be exploring all of that on Saturday, so go along for that, which is for what I'm sure will be a lively discussion. And also on Monday, I'm very excited to be offering a new theme for our Monday night meditation classes. So that theme is going to be change your mind, change the world. Change your mind, change the world. So that's a very exciting, very pertinent theme, both for what we've been talking about tonight and more broadly as well. And we've very, very pleased to be able to welcome Charlotte into the studio. So here at the Dharma community, we've been able to come up with a solution to have visiting teachers in, so we can have socially distanced teachers coming in. So it's a real delight to be able to welcome in Charlotte to be able to lead the Monday night meditation. She'll be doing a couple of weeks of that theme. Mitra and I will be doing some classes with her as well. So yeah, really good. Tune in on Saturday for the Zoom and Monday for the meditation class. And then there's lots of other stuff as well, so you can check that out too. And just finally, don't forget that after this call at 8:45 there'll be a Zoom discussion where you can continue to explore the themes in tonight's session. So go get yourself a cup of tea, go to the bathroom, come back and join the discussion. Okay, so that's it. So thank you very, very much, Amaladana, for joining us. It was a really fruitful and rich talk. I've really actually enjoyed that. You know you've heard a good talk when you feel more energized at the end than you did at the beginning. So thank you very much for joining, and thank you to everybody from me for tuning in tonight. Yeah, thanks.